Some legacies are written in blood, others in music. Some men discovered too late. They've destroyed the only symphony that mattered. Quick pause. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. If this story has you hooked, hit like and subscribe, because what's coming next is even more intense. Robert Kane stood backstage at Carnegie Hall, adjusting his cufflinks as the audience settled. At 32, he commanded the New York Philharmonic with the iron discipline his grandfather used to build the Kane Foundation, the institution shaping American classical music for 70 years. Tonight's premiere would prove he deserved a family name carved into concert halls across 3 continents. But the score felt heavier than it should. 6 months ago, his wife, the woman who created the haunting violin arrangement making this concerto breathtaking, walked out, taking the one thing Robert couldn't conduct away, the truth. Money buys the finest instruments. Power fills concert halls. Neither restores what a man destroys, choosing pride over trust. Trouble began when Mary Kane, Robert's mentor's widow, arrived at rehearsal with a leather portfolio. "We need to talk about Ruby," she said. Robert's fingers froze on his baton. His wife Ruby, brilliant violinist whose innovative arrangements transformed his traditional compositions, had been his artistic partner for 5 years. Their collaboration was magical, their marriage more so. These arrangements Ruby claims to have created, Mary opened the portfolio, revealing musical notation, are remarkably similar to compositions my late husband Lance was developing before he died. Compositions Ruby accessed while studying under him. The implication hung like a dissonant chord. Lance Ashford had been legendary, Mary's husband of 40 years. Ruby's mentor at conservatory. His death 3 years ago devastated classical music. "That's impossible," Robert said weakly. "I've hired musicologist Dr. Marcus Webb. He analyzed the pieces. The melodic structures, harmonic language, notation style, unmistakably Lance's. Probability of coincidental similarity? Less than 2%. That night, Robert confronted Ruby. She stood in their music room, violin in hand, Lance's final gift to her. "Did you steal from Lance?" Ruby's bow clattered to the floor. Evidence mounted like measures in a funeral march. Mary's investigator uncovered emails between Ruby and an anonymous address discussing Lance's final works. Bank records showed unexplained payments. Most damning, a USB drive in Lance's studio contained sketches matching Ruby's arrangements note for note. Robert's father, Brandon Kane, weighed in with characteristic bluntness. At 75, the patriarch had survived 3 heart attacks and 2 divorces. "The girl played you," Brandon said, tapping the report. "Used your name to launder stolen work. This destroys everything we've built. She's my wife. She's a fraud. The Foundation's reputation is at stake. Publicly denounce the theft. Divorce her. Distance yourself before the scandal consumes us." The final blow came from Dr. Webb himself. In his university office, surrounded by framed scores, he explained with devastating precision. The harmonic progressions utilize a specific sequence Lance developed, the Ashford Resolution. It appears in only 3 published works and 17 unpublished compositions. Ruby's arrangements contain this exact technique in 23 places. Robert returned home to find Ruby composing. He made his decision. "I'm withdrawing from the competition and filing for divorce." The divorce announcement coincided with the Foundation's annual gala, the most prestigious event in classical music. Mary convinced Robert that truth needed public acknowledgement. Robert stood on the Lincoln Center stage before composers, conductors, critics, and patrons controlling classical music's future. "I must withdraw from the Kane Foundation Prize," he began. "I discovered that arrangements attributed to my collaborative work with Ruby Moreno were stolen from Lance Ashford's unpublished works." The ballroom erupted. Camera flashes exploded. Ruby stood at the back, face frozen in horror. "I was deceived by someone I trusted implicitly. The woman I married betrayed not only me, but the artistic integrity this foundation represents. Ruby pushed through the crowd. Robert, stop. Mrs. Moreno. Mary's voice cut through chaos, amplified by the stage microphone. Do you deny accessing Lance Ashford's private studio? Do you deny the similarity between your work and his unpublished compositions? I studied with him. Do you deny receiving payments from an anonymous source? The whispers became accusations. Fraud. Plagiarist. Robert watched his wife flee the ballroom, feeling only hollow vindication. Justice had been served. He was completely wrong. 3 months later, Robert stared at an email that made his blood ice. Subject: you should know the truth. Mr. Kane, I can no longer stay silent. I'm Dr. Tara Rodriguez, graduate student who worked as Lance Ashford's archivist. Mary Kane paid me $50,000 to fabricate evidence against Ruby Moreno. The unpublished compositions, actually Ruby's early drafts she left in Lance's studio during studies. Mary had me relabel them with earlier dates. The anonymous payments, from Ruby's mother, easily verified. The musicological analysis, Dr. Webb is Mary's brother-in-law. His conclusions were predetermined. Ruby never stole anything. She was Lance's most talented student. After his death, Mary became obsessed with controlling his legacy. When Ruby's arrangements received acclaim, Mary saw it as theft of her husband's posthumous glory. I discovered Mary's real motive. She's been collaborating with your father to restructure the Kane Foundation. With you discredited and divorced, they plan to merge it with the Ashford Trust under their joint control. I've attached documentation proving Ruby's innocence. Robert's hands shook, opening the attachments. Mary's emails discussing which drafts to discover. Bank records. Video footage showing Ruby creating those arrangements from scratch. The woman he'd loved, humiliated, and divorced had been innocent. Robert found Ruby in a Boston high school auditorium, teaching teenagers a Bach partita. She cut her hair short, wore jeans instead of evening gowns, looked both harder and more peaceful. After class, she finally spoke. You shouldn't be here. I know the truth. Mary fabricated everything. You never stole from Lance. Ruby's laugh was bitter. You destroyed me because you chose to believe I was capable of betrayal. The evidence was flimsy, but you wanted to believe it. It gave you an excuse to distance yourself from my success. The words hit like a physical blow. Your entire life, Robert, you've lived in your grandfather's shadow, your father's shadow. When my arrangements started getting more attention than your compositions, it threatened your identity. Mary just gave you permission to resent me. I loved you. You loved the idea of a partner who made you look brilliant without overshadowing you. The moment that balance shifted, you were ready to believe the worst. She packed her violin. I've moved on. You should too. I'll expose Mary and my father and destroy your family's legacy. Here's what I learned. Some mistakes can't be fixed. You humiliated me before everyone who matters in our field. Robert spent 3 months gathering irrefutable evidence. He uncovered Mary's entire scheme, including a recorded conversation where Mary admitted framing Ruby. Brandon refused to believe it. Then, confronted with evidence of Mary's manipulation, he suffered his 4th heart attack. In the hospital, machines beeping, he called Robert to his bedside. I destroyed your marriage because I was afraid you'd become more successful than me. Mary promised me stability, legacy, control, and I let her weaponize those fears. Fix this. The foundation, your reputation, none of it matters if you lost the one person who made you a better musician. The Kane Foundation held an emergency session. Robert presented the evidence. Mary's power base collapsed. She resigned in disgrace. But Robert knew none of it mattered if he couldn't reach Ruby. He showed up at her school every day for 2 weeks. Finally, after the last student left, she turned. Why are you here? Because I need you to know something. He pulled out a folder. This is an endowment in your name. $5 million for music education. The money comes from liquidating my trust fund. Throwing money. I'm not finished. This is my resignation from the New York Philharmonic. I've accepted a teaching position here. 2 years later, Boston's Martin Luther King Jr. High School held its first annual student concert, funded by the Ruby Moreno Music Education Foundation. Ruby conducted a chamber orchestra of 40 students who'd never touched instruments before joining the program. Robert stood in the wings, watching his wife. They quietly remarried 6 months ago, guide teenagers through Vivaldi. His role was different now. Supportive, not collaborative. Present, not dominant. Brandon sat in the audience, healthy again after changing his lifestyle and priorities. He clapped loudest, his pride in his son finally uncomplicated by ego. Mary had disappeared from public life, last heard living quietly in Portland. Her reputation destroyed. After the concert, a young violinist approached Robert shyly. "Mr. Kane, I wrote a composition. Would you look at it?" Robert took the sheet music, seeing nervous hope that reminded him of every young artist who'd ever trusted someone with their creation. "I'd be honored. But remember, my opinion is just one perspective. The only person who can tell you if your music is good is whether it's true to what you wanted to express." Ruby appeared at Robert's side, slipping her hand into his. "You're getting better at being human, instead of trying to be a legacy. I had a good teacher."
If you enjoy watching this, please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.